It's pizza time, extended edition. I'm super stoked to be bringing you along the whole process from the starter mix all the way to crushing that slice. I'm going for the full glimpse into my dough process this week. I'm always changing up my dough recipe. That's one of the questions I always get asked is like, hey, what's your dough recipe? Well, the truth is, I'm always changing up the mix. I mean, that's part of the pizza lifestyle. You gotta be tinkering with the stuff. That's what keeps it really fun. And I wanted to just take you along for a ride of let's give it a whirl with this week's mix. I'm going to show you the whole process, put it up on the blog, santabarbarabaker.com, to show you all the ingredients and what goes into this week's mix. Hopefully it comes out something good, have some bomb heady slices, but let's get this thing started. So how I prefer to do my pizza most of the time is I'm working with sourdough. That's the naturally fermented dough. I'm using a culture, a sourdough starter is what it's called oftentimes, the mother. This is my starter. You know, it almost looks like wallpaper paste right now. It smells really nice. It's not super strong smelling in any sort of like off sense. That's not how you want your culture to smell. It should smell good, like a pleasant fermentation aroma into this. You can see it's bubbling with activity. I actually keep my sourdough process really simple. My starter, our culture, the mother, whatever you want to call it, it just lives in a deli container. Nothing fancy. I lit it up and it just lives in the fridge all week. I pull out 50 grams each time I'm gonna make a batch of dough for 4 pizzas. Otherwise, I feed it once every 7 to 10 days. Just pulling, I pull all of it except for 25 if I have anything left, but this is enough to make, if I'm making multiple batches a week, I'm almost down to the end of it. That's perfect. Trying to keep that waste down as much as possible is one thing I'm really into. And that said, you know, sourdough, I think it really brings the best flavor. It ferments really nicely, but you don't have to be doing sourdough. I get really good results too, even using yeast. There's nothing wrong with using yeast. I'm gonna do another edition of this where I do that because I think sometimes keeping a sourdough culture can be a lot of work for some people. I live the pizza passion lifestyle. I'm making pizza all the time. So this really is actually convenient for me to have it going, and I like it, and it just brings that extra little flavor that really delivers. But you can use a poolish, other methods to really get some good flavor in your pizza. But I think one important thing, and that's what I'm saying, we're at the beginning of this process, the beginning of the journey, is it's gonna take a couple days. That's how you build that flavor. And even if I'm doing a same day dough, by same day it's really not true because I'm oftentimes building a starter the night before. It's confusing because we call them both starters oftentimes. Or if I wasn't using sourdough, I'd build a poolish or a biga the night before, and that's gonna build up that flavor overnight. We're gonna put that into the mix and it'll just give you a lot more. When you're just dealing with a shorter time span, unfortunately, you're not gonna get that real depth of flavor. You can still make some bomb pizza though. Don't let that, set you back if you're, don't have a lot of time in your life to tinker around with dough. But just maybe you're not gonna get that same kind of like real like artisan vibes going on, but it could still make some bomb like pan pizzas if you're packing it full of flavor. Don't stress on it. But let's get this thing going. I got, here's my culture here. This thing can just go back in the fridge like I said. That keeps it on, so I only have to feed it once every 7 to 10 days. But let's get the mix started. What I got going here, I change it up too when I'm building that starter. So this is the night before we do our mix. I like to do about 12 hours. Depending on where you are, you might have to cut that shorter if it's warm in your house. It's about like 70 degrees in here. So I'm not tripping too hard on it. I'm always mixing up the flour mix in this. This time I got 50 grams of bread flour, 25 grams of rye flour, and 25 grams of T85, which you might have heard me mention before. That's a type of wheat flour. That's the ash content, 0.85%. You could use a whole wheat flour in here, but realize that has more ash in it. That's gonna make your pizza, make the starter more active. It's also gonna introduce some more grain in there that you could potentially, as you stretch your dough, can cause some issues, but don't stress on it too hard in lower percentages. I like changing up the mix a bit like, too, depending on how active I'm seeing my culture, when you include more of those whole grains in there, you're probably gonna get a more active mix. And also, too, back to that temperature thing, I got my water here. It's 100 grams of water. I'm just using room temp today because that's how I feel the temperature in here. It's all good. But since I'm pulling 50 grams of culture cold from the fridge, it's a little bit icy feeling, you know? So you might warm up that water. You don't want to go super warm though, like maybe like 80 degrees or something, just to wake it up a little bit. If the temps in your house, when I'm making this vid though, we're summer, so I'm not stressing on it too much. So that's what I got going here. I got just the water. I weighed out. Always weigh your shiz. You got to get that stuff, you know, get it on the money, spend the time. A little scale really helps along in a lot of places in your life. I recommend one. So I got the 100 grams of water with 50 grams of culture, and then I just mixed up this flour mix. I find it's helpful if you're going to do a blend of flours to do this mix and something else instead of doing it in here, just to make sure it all gets incorporated. And two, I just did it with a spoon. I'm always kind of messy, so this maybe is keeping it a little bit more tight, but feel free to get in there with your hands. When I pulled out this culture, you can just go in there with your hands, get it mixed around. You don't gotta stress too much, but like I like it going, you know, pretty, so you don't see a lot of big chunks or anything. But that's looking good to me. And always, I mean, just one other thing I want to touch on this is, so like the people are always interested in like hydrations and stuff like that as well. So like the starter, the culture, the mother, and the fridge is at 100%. The starter, same name. It's confusing sometimes, or you can call it Lavon, but some people call this the Lavon too. It's confusing. This is also going to be at 100%. So that way, I mean, it makes it real easy to scale. I'm using this for 4 dough balls. We're shooting in the like 300, maybe a little bigger range. But that works for me. But you can always play with that percentage, bulk it up if you need to do more, or if you're finding it's just too active or something like that, you can play around with that starter percentage in your mix. But let's just get this thing going. I just got the water and the 50 grams of culture, and this is just, I mean, it doesn't get much easier. I'm just gonna dump it in here. Oh, a little bit. Of course, you know, whenever you go on camera, like, it's gonna, who knows, maybe that'll be the difference on the dough. But always try and get it in there. And I'm just gonna mix it up. You just wanna make sure, just stir or use your hands like I said, get it all worked in there so there's no more dry flour. Once I get that mixed up, I mean, it's just simple. It's just in a deli. I'm gonna lid it. You saw over here on the mother culture, I keep a little rubber band on there just to keep track of the activity on it. I'm gonna throw that in there, throw this thing up into the dough nook, put on some heady jams tonight, probably some Bob. It's feeling good at this hour. And I'm just gonna let that hang out overnight. Check it first thing in the morning. 12 hours, I think, is about max. I feel like things have been active. I want to do that first thing when I get up. And if I see it, I'm gonna start mixing that dough. See you back in the morning. We'll get this thing built. We got high hopes for this dough. It should be a fun ride. Hopefully eating some bomb pizza. This is just the beginning. One love. It's waking dough. I'm mixing up my flour mix right now. It's day 2 of my dough process. I'm taking you on a journey of what I'm experimenting this week. I'm always playing around with my dough mix, especially now with the new oven. I'm working in the Ooni Koda 16. I'm changing it up a bit because I'm just, you know, seeing every time I make a batch of dough, I'm learning from it. What do I want to change to maybe dial it into how I like it? That's what you guys, I think, should be doing too. Make the pizza that you guys love. So, you know, just use this kind of as a base maybe to go on your own journey. But all right, so last night we started up. We're about 12 hours later. I showed you how I made a starter. I made that starter from another starter, or the mother starter, the culture, whatever you want to call it. That's what I have now mixed in here with 350 grams of water. So that starter that I made last night, that had 100 grams of water, along with that 25 grams of water that's in that total 50 grams of culture that came from the mother starter. Along with that in there, I got a flour mix. This time it's 100 grams total. It was 50 grams of bread flour, 25 of T85, that's a type of wheat, and then some rye flour, 25 grams of that too. All mixed up. I mixed it up, let it sit overnight, room temp. It doubled. It actually looked really active this morning. Almost like, you know, filling up that whole deli container. I just took it out. I mixed it in with the water before I put it in, just to, like, you know, integrate that a little bit better. You don't have to like mix it, get crazy on that. I'm just like feeling through. I go through my hands, just making sure there's no chunks. But you look at this, it's like, delicious milk. It smells really good. Got that kind of like lactic aroma. That's really good. All right, on to the flour mix today. I don't know what I want to call this one this week. You know, just kind of like is my like little hybrid thing. Neapolitan, New York. I mean, I don't know. It's good pizza. But we're going with the blend today of, I got in this mix, I already mixed it up. It's 300 grams of bread flour along with 300 grams of 00 normal. I'm working with some organic flour here, but if you're using Caputo, that would be the blue bag. It's called pizzeria flour. The red bag, that's a little higher protein content. It's more like a bread flour actually. It's great though. I mean, that'll produce some good pizza. That blue bag though, or like, you know, more traditional 00 flour, normal, that's really suited for that high heat switch, you know, we can do in the Ooni. So, you know, I like that in the mix. Along with that, with the bread flour, also some T85. I got 70 grams of that in there. And that's a type of wheat flour I've mentioned before. That just is, you know, if you don't have that, just, you can dial it back with just using slightly, you know, use less of a whole wheat flour, add in more bread flour and the 00 to round out your mix. And then I got, to finish it off, 20 grams of rye flour. I'm a big fan of rye flour in the mix. I think I first saw that Moza does that, and I feel like, I mean, that was some of the major inspiration on my pizza journey. Nancy Silverton, she's amazing, and Pizzeria Moza is, you know, that was like, you know, one of the first spots that really, I feel like brought, at least in the U.S., that kind of, this more like artisan style that I feel like I really like. But let's get this mixed up. You could do this in a mixer. I prefer doing it by hand. I mean, I'm only making 4 pizzas here, so it's like getting out the mixer. You can do that. It's a debate whether it's easier. I like getting my hands in the dough, feeling it. That's how you learn about your dough. You get your hands on it, watch it. That's how you learn. People ask, how do you make those pizzas? It's just like time. You got to just keep doing it more. The more you learn, the more you experiment in your own environment. I think that's another important thing to mention with sourdough. Is you got to really figure out, where do you live, where, like how much, you know, like I'm saying that starter in the morning, mine almost tripled this morning. That's more than I usually get. So I'm, you know, thinking about that, like what was the temps in here? I'm using that information as I'm going forward to tailor that for my next batch. But let's get this thing mixed up, get this show on the road. I know a lot of people like to go, you might take the water, actually put it in here first, mix with the starter and some salt even. At this first mix though, I start with the dry and I'm gonna add the wet into it. And I just dump it in here. I mean, this is not, we're not getting fancy in here. There's no special tricks or anything. It just is like, we're not the fanciest shop in the world here, but we get it done. And I like to scrape it all out of here. You know, use your hands. Don't be shy. You can wash your hands in the sink. And I like to use a spoon to kind of get it going. I feel like at the initial stage it can be a little messy with the hands, but I'm just gonna stir this around to all the flours incorporated. We don't want to knead or anything at this point. All I'm looking for is to see, like, you know, that dry flour has absorbed into the water. It'll look kind of crazy. It'll look dry. You'll be like, man, this looks like it's not gonna come together as a good dough, but you know, just hang tight because we're gonna let it rest. I'm shooting on this batch, goobing some flour all over the place. But this should end up around 61% hydration. I'm liking on the Ooni going a little bit lower. When I was baking all the time on the steel inside, it's just like how that method worked. I feel like it dries out the dough quite a bit more. And so you want to go higher hydration. In the Ooni, you know, we're cooking faster. It's higher temps, and just how that oven works. It's more like a wood-fired oven. And so you can dial that hydration down a little bit. You don't need it. I mean, high hydration isn't the be-all, end-all. And I feel like you go lower, if people are having problems like working that oven, the lower hydration is a little bit more user-friendly when you're working the oven. You know, sometimes can be a little bit more difficult to stretch, but you got to play around with that. Find out what you like, what works for you and your fam, and making it really good. I mean, this is starting to look good. You know, just kind of scraping that off. I put it in a glass bowl today just so you can see what's going on here. But it's like a shaggy mess right now. But I just go through now with my hands and just kind of pinch through and then fold it over like that. You know, see, there's still a bunch of flour down here that hasn't been incorporated. But I'm just gonna go through and get that. But like I said, I'm not gonna like do full on kneading on this point. I'm just gonna get it mixed in here, get this finished up. I'm gonna cover it up, let it hang out for 25 minutes. We'll come back and on to the next step. We'll see how this one goes. I got high hopes. All right, after 25 minutes, we got stuff that's looking a little bit more like dough. It always looks like pretty funky there in the initial mix when you're doing it this way. It looks pretty dry. You're like, oh man, should I add some more water? But just hold tight. Now it's looking pretty good. And we're gonna add a little bit more water now anyway, so we should be good. But you can see that flour now has absorbed a lot more. I like the looks of that. It's gonna start working. I like that initial mix just to let everything get happy there for a second. Let that flour absorb into the water before really going at it anymore. But now you can see it picking it up. You know, it's still not fully incorporated, but it's starting to look good to me. All right, we're gonna start putting the salt into it for this mix. This week I'm using 20 grams of salt. And this time too, I got a little bit of malt in there. I want to give that a try. I really like using malt when I'm baking inside in the on the steel. I feel like that you can get like a little bit better coloring, I feel like maybe, and I feel like it helps with the fermentation a bit. It's something to try. I got that in there with 20 grams of salt, and I just made a little slurry with some water. I feel like it incorporates a little bit better when the salt's in some water instead of just putting it on there dry. You know, but you can do however you want. It's 30 grams of water, and I'm just gonna like slowly start incorporating in there, folding it into the dough. And like this is the part too, it'll start looking sometimes kind of a little funky, like the dough will start, like just keep going, folding it in, kneading it in there, and you'll be all good. I just kind of come through, I just leave it right in the bowl and just folding it over on itself, and you'll see it start to get nice and smooth. I just slowly work this in. Now, instead if you dump it in, you might run into some issues, but if you do that, you don't give up. Just keep kneading, it should come together in a nice ball. But what we're looking for here is just, you know, I let that kind of mix in there and absorb, add a little bit more, and I'm gonna keep doing this till it's all in there. You know, it should take around 5-10 minutes maybe, I don't know, it depends on how fast you go. But I like to look for it to look nice and smooth but not overworked. And then what I'll do is I'll just put it back into the bowl and cover it again. We're gonna give it another 25-minute rest. We'll come back, hit it with the oil. That's the final mix before we do our bulk ferment. It's looking pretty good. This dough smelling really nice. I got high hopes for this mix. Hopefully it's a good one. We shall see. See you again in 25. On to the final stage of the mix before we do the bulk ferment. It's been about 25 minutes. Like, you know, these times it's like give or take. It's around 25 is good as far as I'm concerned in my book. But the dough, it's looking pretty nice. It smells so bomb. That's why I love making that sourdough. Or even if you're not doing sourdough, if you make a poolish, that should smell really nice. That aroma coming off the dough, I love it. I'm gonna incorporate in this last little part of the mix the oil. You know, there's some controversy out there on oil. I personally like using it in my mix in small amounts. Feel large amounts. People say that makes it crispy. I don't really find that. I feel like the oil even adds, you know, it's a tenderness as well as adding crispy. You know, there's a lot of debate, and I think it depends on how much percentage you're getting on there. You know, just go with a little bit. How about that? Let's call it that. This is 10 grams. I like that range for about this. You know, we're gonna have 4 pizzas. We're shooting around, I think this should be about a 300-gram dough ball. That's the rad thing though, when you're just making pizza at home, I'm just gonna divide this up into 4. You know, if you got a pizzeria or something, you wanna make sure that those dough balls are hitting your weights a little better, so we have a little more wiggle room when we're just experimenting at home. It's a lot of fun. At this point, I'm just gonna keep going with the you know, always be careful, especially here. I got in the glass bowl so I can show you guys, but you know, be careful. Got this folding. Oh yeah, it's feeling so nice. Look at that, and you can see, like before it looked kind of dry, and now it's definitely not feeling dry at all. But how I do it is I just start, you know, just like I was doing that salt mixer, of just slowly incorporating in the oil rather than just dumping in all at once. And like I've said, I like doing it by hand. I feel like it really produces a really good product. But feel free to do it in a mixer if that's your jam. I'm just gonna get this working in here. You know, this is the same thing if you dump it in all at once too. Your dough might get a little funky, almost like it's breaking apart, but you can just work that back in. Just have a little patience working in. The dough should look really nice and smooth. I'm just gonna keep working this in here. You know, once you see it absorb, I'm kind of going through kneading and folding it like this. As you know, you read some places, it's like that's incorporating some air as you fold that in there. It's like, who knows? Do what you like, but I'm gonna finish this up. But what you want to do is just get it so it's like nice and smooth. This already looks pretty smooth. I don't have all the oil in there. I mean, like, look at that. That looks pretty good to me. And what I'll do is I'm just gonna I'll tuck it back in here. Look at that. Look, it smells so nice. Cover it with some plastic. We're gonna let it hang out. I'm shooting like in here right now. Let's see, what's it? 70 degrees. That's perfect. I like that. You know, that's about max. You get it up to 80. You got to be careful, keep an eye on it. But I'm going to let this hang out about 3 hours, let's say. You can give, 2, 3, I'm gonna shoot for overall though at this at the room ambient temperature fermentation today, around 8 hours total. Whether that's all in bulk, it doesn't really matter so much to me, but I'm gonna go for, let's say 3 hours for this. Check back. Oh yeah, I gotta get the rest of my oil working in here. I'm gonna be careful with the glass. Fold it in here, finish this off. Gonna get it covered up, let it hang out on its rest. We'll be back to portion this up, divide it up, finish it up. Looking good to me so far. This dough's looking really nice. It smells so good too. You want to have that, like, it's almost like a lactic aroma from the fermentation that's going on. A really pleasant aroma. You don't really want too much sourness or going, even though it's called sourdough, naturally fermented. It just smells really good. That just got me really fired up. Opening the lid and smelling that really good. So we're in 3 hours now since we've put the oil in. I mentioned earlier, for today, I'm shooting for around 8 hours about total fermentation. And I'm doing that count from when I first started with mixing the starter, the flour, and the water in that initial mix. Once it's in bulk, I did 3 hours today. There's plenty of wiggle room in that. That's where you really gotta, just figure it out, what works for you in your space. It really depends on your temperature and a lot of stuff going on. And the more batches of dough you make, the more you see, it's oh, I like how smooth this looks. Look at, the size of it. You can see on a glass bowl too. It's oh man, I got some activity going down there. It's bigger. So this all looks really good to me, that it's a good time to portion this up. One thing I didn't mention earlier that I think is a convenient thing, I don't know how your setup is, but how I'm doing it with these bowls and stuff, is that, keeping track of your weights. So before, I'm gonna pull this out, divide it up, and instead of having to go back and forth to tear out this bowl, I just do that weight when I'm starting the bulk fermentation. So I got it balled up like that, and I put it onto the scale, and I figured out it worked out to be 1,288 grams. So we got fatties today, 321. That's gonna be our dough ball. I think that's pretty good for maybe a 16-inch in the Ooni oven, or just a fatty, smaller, 14 to 12 inch. That should work. That's a pretty good size. I do anywhere between 275 to 320 is what I'm kind of max. I've bumped it up now with the Ooni Koda 16. But let's get this thing divided up. How I'm gonna start this off is I already weighed it, so I know what it goes. 1288, that's gonna divide, we'll call it 321, a dough ball. I'm just gonna hit it with, I have a little bit of dusting flour here. This is just bread flour. I just like to hit the top of it to make sure it doesn't stick going out. And also on my workspace here, I'm always making a mess no matter how hard I try. But getting some flour out so it doesn't stick. And then I just go in gently with my hands around here. You don't really want to knock out any of that beautiful fermentation that took place. And just kind of pull this out in one. Look at that. It looks so nice. And then I'm going to plop this down. This goes onto the scale. So I got my dough, the big, you make a giant fatty pizza out of this one, but we're gonna divide it up into 4. But how you do this, of course, I imagine on camera, it'll probably take me forever to nail out one dough ball. But if you do this a lot, you can really get an awesome feel for cutting up your dough. If you work at a pizzeria or something, you can nail those weights. It becomes kind of a game. It's pretty fun. But all right, so I'm just gonna kind of look at this dough, it's feeling really nice. It's not super sticky. This should be around 61, 62 hydration. So it's pretty easy to work with. I don't see, I'm not gonna have to use a lot of flour on this to keep it from sticking. But I'm just gonna go in and cut one off. Let's see how it feels. Oh yeah, I like how that dough feels in my hand. Let's see what we got in here. I bet you this feels light to me, but it feels really airy. I feel like the dough's really active today. In there, 220, 222, so a full, almost 100 grams short. But all you gotta do then is I just cut off some more dough. See how many iterations this takes till we nail it. 274, man, I knew it. And if I'm doing it on camera, it's gonna take me probably 5 times this long. That's 306. Still, these are gonna be fatty balls. Let's see, maybe it's money now. Oh, 321, that's it, we'll get it right on the money. I mean, a gram, that's that little thing right there. 321. All right, that's good. I'll show you just how I ball up one of them. So in the ideal world, you just pull this off in one piece. But I got this other dough that I got to deal with now. But I just kind of tuck it in there because we're going to let this ferment more. And how I work is I just wow, look at that. A lot of bubbles in here. A little bigger bubbles than I actually like, but I'm gonna watch that now on this fermentation now that it's balled up. I don't want it to go too long. I'm seeing the dough's really active today. I typically would do like 4 hours. Maybe I'll go a little shorter, but I'm balling up. Wow, look at all those bubbles and just kind of pinching it in here. It's kind of interesting. This is like feeling, I don't know, I guess my starter is really happy right now because this is feeling really light and airy. We'll see how it bakes up tomorrow. And so with this batch of dough, I would say you could actually use it today. Look at that. You know, it should be a little bit smoother, but yeah, you can just kind of pull it in. But yeah, so you could use it today after, 3-4 hours, or I like to stick it in the fridge and cold ferment. Feel like that gets like, you're looking for that leopardy and that kind of stuff. I feel like that helps sometimes. And the flavor and digestibility, that's the key things. The flavor builds up on that cold fermentation. Dough tastes really good. So that's the dough ball. These are looking pretty fat. Oh, kind of funky one today. I just kind of ball it up. I don't know if you saw that. I'm just kind of pinching it in like a mozzarella ball. This one's not looking all that pretty, but what are you going to do? So you can just like kind of put it down here and then pop it. You can also kind of pinch it. You want to make sure that you close it off. Alexa, alarm off. We always got timers going on around here. It's like, what is that? All right, this is looking pretty good. I don't know, those bubbles are looking, that means it's active, but we want to watch that because I'm looking for a little more smaller bubs is what I like, but the dough definitely seems pretty happy. It smells really good. And I just gonna plop this into an oiled bowl. I just hit it with like, if you got 4 of them, you can just pour oil into one and just kind of dump them in if you've seen people do that. I'm just gonna stick it in there. Like, I'm not gonna actually even put any flour on this because I hit it with that when I was dividing up. Just gonna put it in here and cover it. Gonna let this hang out. Like I said, I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye on this. It looks a little interesting to me with how much activity is going on, but I'm gonna shoot for 3 hours, but I'm just gonna call it when I see it. Stick that in the fridge once it's like, because I don't want it to overproof. Let it hang out, come back tomorrow, bake up some pizza. Hopefully this is the bomb batch. Looking pretty good to me. One love. It's pizza time. Now it really is actually pizza time. It's the real deal now. Now we get to make the pizza. So I ended up, I threw it into the fridge after about 2 hours yesterday. I felt like my starter was just like crazy active yesterday. This dough is looking really proofed. A little sketched out on it. I hope it didn't overproof. I like to see like a little more like little bubbles. I was seeing some bigger ones in here, so I just fridged it at that time. And I was also using some new flour in the mix, so it's like maybe something a little different. We'll see how it bakes up. It's a 320 gram dough ball. It should be a pretty fatty one. I'm gonna go for just a basic plain cheese pizza. A little parm, oregano on there. I'm gonna start getting it stretched. On a one like this, I just go in, start with some firm pressure, preserving that crust. We're going for like kind of, I don't know, like a hybrid New York Neapolitan style. We'll try and get it crispy, but still have some crust and also just a little more flavor going on in here too with the rye and the T85 wheat in the mix. I'm just pushing this one out. For this kind of style, I'm making sure we got crust, but not super stressed on it though too. This dough feels pretty nice. All right, get it worked up. I like to pull it up like this and start working it back and forth. There's a lot of different ways to stretch. I mean, you can just keep it on the marble the whole time and just work it out kind of like how I was. That's a really easy way. Or you can go, like this, getting your hands in there. Or this one is like the classic one. You can get going really quickly with this, and also you can slap it on down onto the marble too. That helps to get some of those air bubbles out of the center that you might have like too big of a bubble or something like that. But getting this thing stretched out, we're gonna shoot for maybe like 14, 15 inches on this one. I got the Ooni Koda 16 preheating outside on location here down in South Laguna this time, so it's fun. The dough got to go on a ride. We'll see how that affects it. I just put it in a cooler for the journey down here. It looked pretty proofy after the end of it, so we'll see. But this dough, I mean, I don't know, this looks pretty good to me. Stretching it out, making sure it's all even. You can, starting to see through it. We're going for like a thin and crispy vibes here. All right, get this thing down on the marble and finish it up. So that's going to be the top side. I'm just going to put the top down. I should have cleared that flour out more because I don't really want that on the top of it, but can't always be perfect on it. Hit the bottom with some flour. Just do a little dusting like that. Always enough to make sure it doesn't stick, but you don't want a bunch of unabsorbed flour. Yeah, and like I was saying, you can just push down. Have you ever seen people going around stretching the pizza just on the marble like that? But getting that all floured up, this is looking pretty good to me. This is gonna be, it looks like a pretty fat pizza. But yeah, getting this all looks pretty good. One little stretch here. Gonna drop it back down, clear the flour out of the way, most of it. And then like if you've seen before, you can always stretch again once you get it onto the peel. So always under stretch maybe a little on here because you can't go back. Like that's, oh, look at that, all those bubbles, you know? This is actually looking pretty good. We'll have a nice fat crust on that. Get some of those bubbles out from the edge, but I mean, look at that, the proofing in here. It looks pretty good to me. All right, let's get this thing started. I don't know, maybe a little rustic, we'll see. Just going, this is my basic tomato sauce. Going for like, you know, like I was saying, like a New York hybrid Neapolitan. We're just eating good pizza. That's what I'm all about. I don't care what it's called. As long as it's pizza and it's bomb, we're having a good time. That looks pretty good. I don't like to go too big on the sauce. Gonna hit it. It just got some dried oregano. I like to go generous on that for, you know, those pizza parlor vibe fumes. Always so heady. The Dank Vibes, the Parm, the Reggiano. A little bit fancy, you know, but like I had some in sometimes you gotta go for the Parm. The good stuff. You can shake from that green can though. I'm not gonna judge. That's looking pretty good. And then today I just got some, like that kind of like, it's fresh mozz. Not the fancies, just some cow's milk. I'm gonna get this on here. I like to break these up and kind of like, you know, we'll go for, like, we'll just do a mix of different sizes today, see how this thing bakes up. It's a totally new batch of dough, experimental as always. This is looking pretty good. I just realized I didn't have any olive oil out. Maybe I'll hit it with some oil. But that's looking pretty good to me. Get this thing onto the peel, load it in the oven. We'll watch it bake. First dough out of the new batch. High hopes on this. Looks pretty good to me. All right, let's get this thing loaded up in the Ooni. Always got my little lag on the timer, but we're baking now. Make sure I keep an eye on this thing. It was looking, crust was looking bubbly, improved, but it looks actually really nice. I think I'm more stoked. I think I'm stoked. We'll see. We're up to about 30 seconds now. Gonna probably go in for a turn here. I got the Ooni turned all the way down on this one, but I had it heating up pretty hot. I forgot my thermometer. Always make sure you got your whole kit when you're out in the wild. All right, I think I'm gonna go in for a turn now on this one. Oh yeah. Looking pretty good. There's like little spotting there. I'm liking that. Maybe push it back a little bit, get another turn in here. We're up to about a minute. A little bit, maybe a little bit of brownage there too much. See, it's pumping up pretty nice. The crust looks pretty good. Up to about a minute 15. I'm always stressing a little bit on this first bake on a new batch of dough. It's like, what is it gonna do? Always don't want to burn it. Oh yeah, looking pretty nice. We're up to a minute 30 now. Keep turning this thing. Oh yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go into that little range up on the little lightning bolt symbol there, just to turn it way down to finish this thing off. Looking pretty good, elaborating there, I like that. I like, you know, going for a little longer bake with a crispy bottom. Not really the classic Neapolitan style, but Neapolitan vibes, like I said, it's like, you know, some sort of hybrid thing. We're just trying to make good pizza. I need to invest in a turning peel. Working with this thing, it works, but you know, leave something to be desired sometimes, or maybe it's just my skills. I don't know. All right, we're up to about 2:30. I think I'm about ready to pull this thing. It's looking pretty good. Get a brownie on the crust there. Yeah. All right, I'm pulling this thing out. All right, look at that. Maybe a little bit more bake there, but whoa, looking pretty good. But that's a little dark there. Gonna get this thing on the rack. Let it hang out for at least 20 seconds to a minute. Let that crust set. Slice this thing up and give it a taste. Looking pretty good. It's pizza time. All things considered, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna be honest, I was pretty nervous today. It's my first time taking the Ooni out in the wild in a different location. So I was just tripping a little bit on that bake. You know, not my best, but what are you gonna do? It still looks like a pretty bomb pie. I'm liking, you know, this dough mix. We'll see how it goes. It's like, I'm liking that spotting on there. Got too dark over on here. That's just like my vibes with the oven today. I'm feeling. But overall, looking at the looks that you can see, maybe that T85 in there. Overall, looks pretty good. I'm gonna go for this slice. It's looking nice. I got that 00 in the mix too, the regular. So this is like more like a real classic Neapolitan, New York hybrid, whatever you're gonna call it. It's looking pretty bomb to me. Maybe it could have been a little crispier for the vibes I like, but still looking good. It's gonna be hopefully having some little more tenderness with that 00 in the mix. Let's give this thing a shot. Beautiful spot down here in South Laguna. What a nice spot to eat some pizza. Can't wait to try this thing. The dough tasting really good. We're up to, you know, this is I balled this up yesterday, so you know, about 24 hours cold fermentation on this. I'm gonna, you know, continue using. I got a couple more dough balls I'll use over the next couple of days. This is like the first day that I'd use it, but still looking really nice. I like the flavor on it. The bake could have gone better. I think this could have a little more crispiness. I might, again, next time utilize that little area a little bit more of the up above that lightning bolt, cook at a little bit lower temp. But you know, this is pretty bomb. Into your basic cheese slice. Hope you guys enjoyed the journey of, I'll take you for the ride of just, you know, my dough experimentation for this week. Hopefully you learned some insights. If you liked, please subscribe and like below. I got much more pizza stuff on the way. I'm getting this dialed in on location, out there in the wild, living the pizza life. Pizza's a lifestyle. Let's get in this thing. One love. Hope everybody's being safe. Eating lots of pizza. So good.